Hi, I'm Manny, and let me tell you, I am not particularly proud of how this one turned out, but I am proud of one thing. It was done in like half an hour, which is more to say than, you know, the usual amount of time it takes for me to quote unquote finish something. Now, granted, it ain't exactly the Mona Lisa, but it's a step in the direction I want to go in, which is to say, not taking like 4 or 5 weeks to like maybe 2 months to finish a piece. And also, I really hope you enjoyed that silly little intro. I said I wouldn't do it, but I don't know. My commitment is about as reliable as the frickin' DeLorean, so this entire painting was actually done with one brush, which is just the basic round brush with like opacity, and that's literally it. I want to I guess I'm a bit of a one brush Andy. I like to just have the one brush that it's all reliable and I just use it for everything. So I kind of wanted to make it work. The sketching phase was done with the brush too. It was just done with the brush at a really small size. And now I'm attempting, I have a reference picture off to the side that you can't see, and I'm attempting to lay the basic groundwork. And I think one mistake I make is right off the bat, I attempted to go for the small details instead of, laying out the big shapes and doing what I usually do with the pencil tool, which is to say layer by layer and mess with the opacity in order to create very light overlapping layers of shading and then detail on top of that. But you live and learn, and like I said, it was done in half an hour, so it's at least a step in the right direction. Looking back at this footage, I can already see that one of the biggest issues with this whole method is going to be the variety of quote unquote texture, like the variety of different textures in the actual painting, because since it's one brush and the brush doesn't even have a texture, it can come across as looking just bland in how all the color is applied. But considering that this is just the first time I try something like this, I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt and keep trying it for a while to see how I evolve with practicing this whole method. And I can also see that I have an issue with using too many, like too dark of a shade when I'm just laying out the foundation, like the base of it, because I have this feeling whenever I'm drawing that I have to rush to make it pretty, rush to make it pretty, rush to make it pretty, and I don't give the piece enough space to look ugly and look bad because it has to look pretty right now instead of it'll get there. I just have to work at a steady pace. And that whole aspect of rushing it for the sake of wanting it to look good right now is something that I think even bit me in the ass with this piece. Because if you saw the quote unquote line art stage, the sketching stage, I didn't even really establish actual guidelines for her facial features. And due to that, her face is going to look absolutely scuffed even at the end of it. So what I should have done is reduce the opacity of the sketch layer and then sketched on top of that to establish a better baseline for the initial values so that I have it's like constructing a building, right? If the foundation is weak, it doesn't matter how good the top floors are, it's just gonna fall apart. But again, live and learn. We take those and we move on. Because hopefully I will keep doing this because as I stated at the beginning of this video, despite the fact that it didn't come out great, it is still a step in a direction I want to go in, which is to say, not taking forever to actually finish something. And finish doesn't necessarily, I have to internalize that finish doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a masterpiece, because at least this, at looking as crappy as I think it does, I still think there is a lot of value in just the fact that I did sit down and got it done and said, okay, that's enough. Because if I keep going back to the things I've already done, then I'm not really moving forward. And I do want to move forward to a place where I can just whip out the old round brush with opacity and put out a finished piece. Maybe it is just me giving in to this whole like false idea in social media, being spammed with so many great artworks, giving me the idea that, oh, you have to put out a piece every single day or every single 2 days or else you're not getting that engagement. But it's not even for the sake of engagement. I just want to create just for myself at a faster pace because it's just not satisfying to grind out a piece for a couple of weeks and then I put it out and it doesn't feel like a waste of time because I personally do like it, but it does feel like I'm not optimizing my time as much as I personally want to for my own sake. And another thing I skipped over is I used the smudge tool in Clip Studio Paint to sort of blur the values on her thigh and see how that kind of worked. And I should have gone over it a little bit more and established some hard edge shadows to contrast with all the blotchy, sort of smoothed over gray tones. But like I said, I was in such a rush and I felt so bad about the piece that I just wanted to get it done with and then do this whole recording. And to counterbalance me absolutely bashing myself, I will say that I think I did a decent job with the overall gesture of the figure and also the place where her shoulder and her armpit are, like that shadow there. I do think it's actually neatly well done, especially for just like a half an hour scribble. But I'd say, as a point of feedback, I need to take my time a bit more in the sketching phase so that I can establish better proportions so that when I start shading, it doesn't feel as off as the face of her is feeling right now. But anyway, that's all of the yapping I've got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.